Hello everyone, my name is Ryan De La Cruz and I am the Director of Business Development here at Ecom-Energy. Today, we're continuing with episode 2 in our new 5-part mini-series on energy procurement. In our previous episode, we explored how and why to perform a proper risk assessment. With that background, we're now ready to explore the RFP process. If this is your first time joining us for an episode of Making Energy Make Sense, we're so glad you're here. You can find more insightful content like this over on our website, Ecom-Energy.com, or just search for Ecom-Energy on YouTube or your favorite podcasting app. Oh, and if you're wondering what our team's own experience is with energy procurement, you can hear more about our qualifications at the beginning of episode 1. So, without further ado, here is Mastering Energy Procurement, episode number 2, Executing an Energy Procurement RFP. Let's begin by looking at why we'd want to perform an RFP in the first place. In today's day and age, it's quite possible your organization is already procuring at least one commodity from a third-party supplier. Or perhaps a new supplier has captured your attention with some impressive claims. Regardless, your goal is to ensure your organization is getting the best possible price and best contract terms available. An RFP is an efficient way to keep existing suppliers honest and competitive, or make sure newcomers' claims are in line with reality. So, how many suppliers do we include in an RFP? At Ecom-Energy, we usually look to include about 3 to 4 suppliers. This figure will be driven by a number of factors. For example, how many suppliers serve the region? Is there a minimum number of bids the organization requires as standard? How much time do we have before we must be under contract? Once you know which suppliers you're going to include in the RFP, you'll want to assemble the actual document. The items to include will vary based on whether this is a natural gas or electricity RFP and whether or not there is a renewable or sustainability element to the request. For the sake of time, we'll offer commentary on just a few biggies. Number 1, background information. Spend a few sentences at the beginning of the RFP telling the suppliers about your organization, and be sure to mention any unique energy needs that pertain to your facilities. Number 2, the bid request. This section includes a very clear list of exactly what product you're requesting in the RFP. Be sure to mention who the local utility is, for example, SoCal Edison, when the supplier should begin service, the term of the bids, for example, is this a 12-month or 24-month term, the type of product, for example, a 100% fixed price full requirements product. Number 3, the bid sheet. This can be as fancy or as simple as you'd like, but the goal is to provide a uniform document that clearly lays out all the cost components for the specific commodity you're requesting. By having each supplier use your bid sheet, you're able to line up their bids for a better apples-to-apples comparison. It's highly likely each supplier has their own approach to bundling certain cost components together. So this bid sheet, combined with some due diligence, will give you the most transparent look at pricing for your facility. Lastly, you'll want to have suppliers indicate whether or not each cost component can be fixed, as it may make sense to lock in some of these components in addition to your main commodity price. If you have a third-party consultant, this is certainly an area where their expertise and recommendations can come in handy. Number 4, the bid date. It's absolutely critical that all suppliers base their bids on the same market conditions. Otherwise, even if your bid sheet is executed perfectly and all cost components are broken out, you will not have an apples-to-apples comparison. We recommend stating something like the following. Bids are due by 8 a.m. Pacific Time on July 21st, based on market close July 20th. This accomplishes 2 goals. First, it ensures that suppliers all quote based on the same exact market conditions when prices have closed for the day on July 20th. Second, it lets you get those bids back nice and early in the morning the following day so that you have time for any final clarifications. Now, if you've already shortlisted suppliers and had a mock bid day, the best and final bids with the shortlisted suppliers shouldn't require much back and forth, as that would have already been worked out after the initial bids. Lastly, because suppliers can usually only hold their prices for a few hours, make absolutely sure your signatory knows when the bid date is so that he or she can make themselves available to execute an agreement before the market begins to move and suppliers have to refresh pricing. Number 5, contract documents. If you're not familiar with how energy procurement contracting works, the next episode in this series will be very helpful. If you do understand, then you'll know you should request each supplier's contracts at least 1 to 2 weeks in advance of bid day so that you and your legal team have time to review and negotiate. You should provide a specific due date by which your facility should receive these supplier contracts. If your organization has less than perfect credit, this is also where you can request that suppliers inform you of any parental guarantees or financial securities that will be required to perform the services outlined in the RFP. Number 6, monthly invoicing and notices. This section seems trivial until it's not. Make sure that suppliers know exactly who to contact when issues arise. It's critical. Small problems can manifest into larger ones when incorrect contact information is listed for invoicing and general updates. Be sure to list applicable names, mailing addresses, emails, and phone numbers in this section. Number 7, addenda and usage details. Each supplier will need to review 12 months of usage details for each meter included in the RFP. If the RFP includes electricity meters, be sure to also include interval data for those meters so that suppliers can understand not just how much energy you use, but how you use it throughout the day. This is also where you can include the bid sheet we touched on earlier, as well as consolidated financial statements and any other supplementary details applicable to the bid. That about does it. Ecom-Energy includes some other details for our customers, but this list is enough to get you up and running with your first procurement. So let's review. What do we know? Begin your RFP by identifying the specific suppliers you plan to include. Then, assemble an RFP document listing company background information, bid details for the product you're requesting, the specific bid date, supplier contract documents and their due date, monthly invoicing and contact information, and, last but not least, addenda, including usage details and the supplier bid sheet. One more thing, be sure to check out episode 3 where we dive into the wild world of energy contracting. There's a lot of useful overlap with this episode. For questions or comments about today's material, shoot us an email at info@ecomenergy.com or head on over to our website to learn more about our full suite of energy consulting services. If you enjoyed what you heard, we'd appreciate it if you could like and share this content with your colleagues on LinkedIn. I'm Ryan De La Cruz, and this has been another Making Energy Make Sense episode from Ecom-Energy.